My name is Ray. I'm a lawyer in Southern Carolina, USA. Today, a death sentence from 70 years ago was invalidated by a state judge. That terrible miscarriage of justice that produced the youngest death row inmate in history. We must never turn a blind eye to that fact. In the 1940s, racism was still very much alive in the city of Alcolo. Black and white neighborhoods were completely segregated from each other by the railroad tracks, and schools and churches were separate. That was not uncommon in the American South at the time.
Hello! Do you know where any maypop flowers are around here?
Maypop?
It's a pretty purple flower. You seen any flowers around here?
Well, sorry, I don't know.
I see. Mary, wanna go look over there then? Yeah, I hope we can find the flowers. Thanks, bye! Bye-bye!
Goodbye. Just this short conversation. It was enough to determine the fate of George Stinney, who was 14 years old at the time.
Hello! Who in the world could it be at this hour?
Good evening. Actually, a couple of white sisters are missing. I'm putting together a search party to find them.
Oh, Lord! That's awful.
Maybe it's those girls we saw today. You met some white girls? Where? Near the railroad tracks. They said they were looking for maypop flowers. Well, that's an important clue. I'll keep that in mind. The next day, the sisters' bodies were found in a ditch filled with muddy water not far from George's house. They were brutally murdered by being repeatedly struck in the back of the head with a blunt object before being dumped in the ditch. It was hardly a crime that little George could have committed alone. George Stinney, you're under arrest for murder. What? Nah, why would I? The sisters were found dead. You were the last one to have a conversation with the victims. You must be the one.
That can't be!
Now hold on a minute. It was indeed a one-sided and absurd drama scene, but shamefully at the time, there was a general and commonplace disregard for human rights.
This child is innocent!
If you obstruct the police, I'll have this whole family arrested. Oh, no. Please do a proper investigation. Now come with me to the station. Mama, Papa.
George!
The parents' protests were never going to be accepted, and George was taken away. The family had no choice but to see him off at the mercy of a group of all-white cops. George must have been terribly distressed when he was forcibly taken to the police station, but the harsh interrogation by the white officers was relentless. You did it! Confess quick! I don't know. I didn't do it. Hey George, if you're lying to me, you're gonna get your family in more trouble. What do you mean? Your father was fired from his job, and it's your fault. The sooner you plead guilty, the sooner everything will come full circle. You know what I mean? Okay. I did it. Okay, I got a confession from the killer. Case closed. That's a tragic case, but it's a relief that it was resolved so quickly. In an interrogation room with no one on his side, surrounded by malevolent white police officers, the 14-year-old boy was terrified, but had no choice but to give in to the officers. Thus, he was indicted, as the officers wanted him to be. When the case became public, all the white people in town were outraged at the murder of the two white sisters by a black boy. The stage was already set for George's conviction. A month later at the trial, the judge, the prosecutor, the lawyers, and the jury were all white. It would have been obvious to George that they all wanted to convict him. The prosecution seeks the death penalty for the defendant as a murderer of the first degree. The defendant is 14 years old, so he's still, well, he's a minor. Under the state law, aren't you an adult at age 14? Oh, well, then there's no problem. A guilty verdict, omitting all physical evidence and cross-examination. George's despair, who was not even allowed to take the stand himself, was beyond comprehension. And just 2 hours after the court opened, the token trial was over. Furthermore, the verdict was handed down after 10 minutes of deliberation by the white jurors. Can you believe that? It took only 10 minutes for a death sentence. The defendant, George Stinney, is hereby sentenced to death. Why? All right, don't dawdle. Out of the courtroom. This kid's too short. That'll do. The electric chair was too big for little George, so George's Bible, which he had held carefully with him, was placed on the chair to adjust his height. I can't help but feel indignant at the trampling of his faith. Executing the sentence. A massive bolt of electricity passes through his body, and the oversized mask covering his face slips off. Ugh. This. There were other visitors who came to watch the execution for the spectacle of it. They all watched while George was forced to tears, drooling, and foaming at the mouth, tragically. Even until the very moment of his death, his dignity was discarded. Damn, I cannot believe this.
George!
Even after the execution of his sentence, George's family believed in his innocence. However, their fear of retribution made it impossible for them to speak out. 69 years after the incident, the family's strong desire to prove George's innocence had led them to pry open the heavy door of justice.
George was innocent.
Please exonerate him and clear him of his guilt and wipe away the dirt encrusted on his name. I understand. We'll do everything in our power. The persistent campaign of George's brother and sister had paid off. After the retrial, the death sentence was nullified. After 70 years, George had finally been cleared of all charges. George, are you seeing this?
Oh, George! It's been a long time, but you're finally exonerated.
With no consequences whatsoever, the sins that were once committed by white people in this land will never go away, but to let the world know the truth and not allow a second George. I think it's our mission.
Thank you for watching to the very end. Our channel produces manga stories based on mysterious real-life events around the world. If you'd like, please subscribe to our channel.